In the archive of American television, few sounds cut deeper than that scratchy, ironic tune boy, the way Glenn Miller played. It opens like a time capsule, a doorway back to a living room in Queens where the carpet is worn thin and the man in the armchair still believes the world owes him respect. His name is Archie Bunker, and in the mid-1970 seconds, he stood for an entire class of people who woke one morning to find the country unrecognizable. The grocery store is his battlefield. Fluorescent lights hum above towers of canned goods, each price tag a wound to memory. Bread that once cost 11 cents now bleeds 50. That's because we had a beautiful war, Archie mutters, half joke, half sermon. He squeezes loaves the way a mechanic checks tires, proving freshness by pressure, refusing to trust anything he cannot dent. Around him, the world speaks another language. Women, cashiers with authority sale signs written like propaganda television commercials, louder than conscience. His wife, Edith, trails behind, soft-voiced and unhurried, the quiet opposite of his thunder. Their quarrel about dented cans becomes an anthropology of marriage, she believing in patience, he in suspicion. Somewhere between those philosophies lies the exhausted middle class. Unemployment has reduced Archie's pride to fragments of sarcasm. When his daughter Gloria brings news of a job interview, he treats it as a rescue mission. The office where he waits smells of bureaucracy and fear. Opposite him sits another applicant, Frank Edwards, polite, educated, defeated. The two men exchange the weary intimacy of the unemployed jokes to hide panic confessions disguised as banter. Both have been replaced by an economy that prizes youth and polish over loyalty. Inside the interview room, Archie confronts a new order, a woman boss named Maloney, precise as a calculator. She tells him without irony that the ideal custodian is a man lacking in skill and knowledge. Archie grins, finally expertise and ignorance is an asset. But when Frank, rejected for being overqualified, climbs onto the window ledge, the absurd turns biblical. The ledge scene, still shocking decades later, plays like theater inside a sitcom. Frank's despair is quiet, almost polite. The audience laughter fades into unease. Archie leans out the city wind, flattening his hair, shouting the only philosophy he knows: survival through stubbornness. He talks about grandsons, about grass blades, used as whistles about the stupid joy of being alive. A grandfather's got to teach the kid how to make a noise out of a blade of grass. It's ridiculous and holy at once, the gospel of ordinary men. When Frank finally steps back inside, the applause comes not for heroism, but for the fragile mercy of two strangers who reminded each other to keep breathing. That night, the domestic world folds back around him. Archie in bed, Edith by his side, the television whispering reruns of his own past. For a moment, he feels redeemed, the hero who saved a life and rediscovered his manhood. "My pudence is coming back," he announces with the pride of a boy. Then the pain hits a real and metaphorical gut punch. His body, like his era, rebels against the illusion of control. The hospital episodes transform comedy into documentary. Gone are the tidy living room walls. In their place, the anonymous whiteness of institutional America. Here the hierarchy reverses women command immigrants, heal science replaces faith. Archie enters as a relic, demanding to be obeyed. The nurse, Caribbean-born and unamused, orders him to turn over for an injection. He negotiates like a diplomat, jokes about the normal American operation, worries that voodoo or bones might be involved. She answers with the weary humor of someone who's heard every version of fear. "I was going to sacrifice a monkey," she says dryly, and the studio audience laughs, not at her, but at the extinction of Archie's certainty. What follows is a small masterpiece of humiliation and grace. Shaved for surgery by a woman who promises to close her eyes, Archie discovers the limits of modesty and prejudice. The body, stripped of its armor of opinion, becomes democratic. On that hospital bed, class, race, and gender disappear into shared vulnerability. Yet even here he clings to narrative control, lecturing Edith about what to do if I don't come back. He lists where the hidden money is, which coffin to choose, what song to play. Beneath the grotesque micromanagement pulses genuine love, the only way he knows to say goodbye. Buy the boy a gift every birthday, he says of his grandson. Make him remember me even when I'm buried deep in the ground. It's absurd, touching, terrifyingly human. The crisis peaks with the blood donor scene, a miniature civil rights parable disguised as farce. His rare type AB negative forces the hospital to seek a volunteer. When the donor arrives, Dr. Thatcher, a black woman, Archie, panics. The language collapses into comic racism, her colored hemoglobin mixing with my white hemoglobin. The doctors answer with silence professionalism, the only moral argument they need. Her blood is red, says one. It's a line so simple that it breaks the rhythm of laughter. In that moment, All in the Family stops being a sitcom and becomes a national mirror. Weeks later, he's home again, patched up but not healed. The living room looks smaller, as if the house itself has aged. His friend Pinky Peterson re-enters, still addicted to practical jokes. A fake mongoose in a box, a scream, a fall, and suddenly the show becomes about cruelty disguised as fun. Archie, humiliated, plots revenge and destiny, delivers Beverly LaSalle, the transvestite nightclub performer whose life he once saved. She arrives shimmering with gratitude, all perfume and vulnerability, the living embodiment of everything Archie both fears and needs to understand. His plan is simple and cruel. Pair Beverly with Pinky for dinner, let the macho prankster fall in love, then reveal the truth. But television morality has its own justice. The dinner unfolds like a social experiment. Beverly's elegance disarms everyone. Pinky's affection turns sincere. When the reveal comes, the laughter in the room freezes. The wig comes off, the illusion collapses, and the only dignity left belongs to Beverly. Archie crows in triumph, but the camera betrays him, his grin trembles. He has won the battle of jokes, but lost something nameless, the right to laugh without guilt. Edith's voice, gentle as always, delivers the verdict: that was a terrible thing to do. No sermon could hit harder. By the time the episode ends, the show has crossed from comedy into moral anthropology. The prank that once defined male bonding becomes an autopsy of cruelty. In Beverly's silent composure lies a kind of divinity, the grace of those who survive misunderstanding. The audience, once accomplice, becomes witness. The laughter that follows is smaller, humbled. The next morning, the house feels like an exhibit of vanished certainties. The clock ticks with mechanical stubbornness. The chair holds the dent of its owner. The kitchen hums with the unacknowledged labor of love. Edith moves through it all as if through prayer folding napkins, straightening photos, humming the same hymn she hums when she's anxious. Archie's world has not collapsed, but something inside it has shifted forever. He doesn't talk about Beverly's dinner. He reads the newspaper more loudly than necessary, as though volume could erase memory. Every few minutes, he glances toward the door, half expecting judgment to walk in. None does. Only Edith, her patience. Endless sets a cup of coffee beside him and says, "You want your toast light or dark? Forgiveness in this house is served for breakfast." But the outside world refuses to slow down. Prices climb, layoffs spread, and women's faces fill the television screen where men's once ruled. One of those faces belongs to Kate Corman, a reporter for the local news. When she arrives at the bunker home to film a story about Edith's heroism at the Sunshine Home, the scene unfolds like an unintentional documentary on gender and media. The living room transforms into a television set. Wires snake across the carpet, floodlights bleach the wallpaper, a cameraman wipes sweat from his brow. Archie, reduced from patriarch to background noise, hovers on the periphery with a mix of pride and resentment. Lady newscasters, he grumbles, they ain't got the voice for disaster. He imagines news as a battlefield, something only a baritone can narrate. But nobody listens. For once the story belongs to Edith, Kate, all professional charm, positions her in the good light. "Just relax and speak from the heart," she says. The irony is perfect. Edith Bunker has never known how to speak any other way. When the camera rolls, she fidgets with her dress, glances at Archie, and begins describing how she saved an old man's life. "I didn't think," she says softly, "I just did what had to be done." Her voice trembles on the edge of tears, not from fear of the camera, but from remembering that heartbeat under her hands. Behind her, Archie shifts, torn between embarrassment and awe. The reporter senses the moment and stays silent, letting truth speak without script. The segment that airs later that night lasts less than a minute, but it alters everything. Edith's face, plain and kind, fills television screens across Queens. She becomes Citizen of the Week, though. She laughs at the title as if it were a misprint. For Archie, the broadcast is both triumph and humiliation. The world applauds the woman he loves, but it does so without him. He sits in his chair, staring at the screen. Long after the credits fade, the reflection of his own living room superimposed on the television image. For a moment, husband and wife exist in two realities, one framed by fame, the other by furniture. In the following days, neighbors stop by with congratulations. The mailman salutes her. Even the grocer who used to ignore her calls her our local hero. Archie pretends to be annoyed, joking that he'll start charging autograph fees. But beneath the mockery, something almost noble stirs pride disguised as grumbling. He doesn't yet have the vocabulary for respect that isn't rooted in authority. Edith's fame forces him to learn. The show treats these shifts with deceptive gentleness. There are no speeches about feminism, no ideological confrontations. Instead, change appears as texture, the sound of cameras in a working-class home, the nervous laughter between husband and wife, the shock of seeing decency treated as news. It's America learning to admire the people. It once ignored mothers, nurses, volunteers, the invisible labor that keeps the nation breathing. When Archie finally finds the courage to admit his feelings, it happens not in grand declaration, but in an offhand remark. "You did good, Edith," he mutters, half facing the wall. She smiles, answering with silence, her favorite language. That sentence, as clumsy as it is, becomes the emotional thesis of the entire series, love expressed through the grammar of resistance. As the arc closes, All in the Family reveals itself not as a comedy about prejudice, but as a meditation on survival in a world that changes faster than its people. Archie's bigotry, his fear, his misplaced pride, all are symptoms of cultural displacement. He is not evil, he is lost. The scripts understand this with almost anthropological precision. Each episode functions as a field report from the American heartland of confusion. Inflation and integration, feminism and unemployment, abstract forces rendered intimate through the creak of a kitchen chair. The beauty of these 5 episodes lies in their refusal to flatter either side of history. Edith's saintliness is never turned into glamour. Archie's ignorance is never allowed to become villainy. The show's creators knew that moral growth is not cinematic. It happens in inches through embarrassment, through late-night hospital conversations, through the unspoken apology inside a husband's gruff tone. Watching him argue about women reporters or blood transfusions is to watch a man negotiating extinction. Watching Edith forgive him again and again is to witness the endurance of love as social grace. When Beverly LaSalle reappears for one last fleeting visit, the gesture feels sacramental. She thanks Archie again for saving her life, the same life he once tried to turn into a joke. She brings flowers, not resentment. Her forgiveness completes the moral circuit of the season. Those who have been mocked offer compassion. Those who have mocked learn humility. She leaves shimmering down the street like a phantom from a kinder future. Edith waves from the doorway. Archie mutters something about crazy times, but his voice lacks conviction. Underneath the sarcasm lies a reluctant awe. And so the story returns to where it began, the bunker living room evening, the city's noise seeping through the window. Archie in his chair, Edith knitting beside him. The television flickers with news of strikes, scandals, distant wars. None of it feels real compared to the soft rhythm of her needles. He glances at her almost shyly, as if seeing her for the first time. "Turn that thing down," he grumbles. She smiles, obeys, and hums their theme under her breath. The laughter track fades. For the first time in 7 seasons, the silence feels deliberate, an act of respect. The camera lingers on their faces on the lines that time and argument have carved there. These are not symbols. They are survivors. Their love story, hidden beneath insults and sighs, becomes the most radical statement of all that ordinary decency can endure the collapse of every ideology. When the familiar song finally begins, it no longer sounds nostalgic, but elegiac. The lyrics about girls being girls and men being men now carry the weight of loss, not superiority. They sing along anyway, slightly off-key, clinging to the melody the way people cling to memory, not because it's true, but because it's theirs. The credits roll, but the music doesn't end. It becomes an echo inside the viewer's head, a reminder that history is not made in parliaments or wars, but in kitchens, hospitals, and small acts of reluctant kindness. What remains after the laughter dies is the realization that All in the Family was never really about one family. It was about a country learning to argue with itself without breaking apart. Through Archie's blunders and Edith's grace, through Beverly's dignity and Frank's despair, the show mapped the emotional geography of a nation in transition. It offered no heroes, only human beings, frightened, foolish, forgiving. As the camera fades to black, the last image is simple, 2 aging faces illuminated by the glow of a television, watching the world move on without them. And yet there is peace in that image, not the peace of victory, but the peace of endurance. They have survived the jokes, the changes, the years. In a world obsessed with progress, survival itself becomes a form of quiet heroism. The audience, once laughing, now listens. The silence that follows is not empty. It's full of memory of history of love that refuses to modernize.